All right, everybody. Welcome back. Seven Figures or Bust podcast, the number one podcast in the world for growing your insurance business. This is episode 113. Christian Brindle, Glenn Shelton, as always, and back by popular demand. We're doing If I Started Over Today. There was a lot of demand for that last week. And in addition to that, there was a lot of things we didn't get to. Good morning, good sir. Monday morning.
Good morning. Pod had a strong week last week, guys. If you didn't see our bonus episode on Friday, too, shout out to Lester from our team. Absolute machine. He might be AI. I'm still trying to figure this out. I'm still trying to figure out if he's real or not. But
we can't let everybody know that our virtual assistants are not actually people. we can't let anybody know that. It's a conspiracy.
It's gonna be like, we're gonna pull up a Reddit post at some point. It'll be like, Glenn and Christian are offering VAs that aren't real people. They're lying to everybody. It's all AI.
Yes. All of it. Couple things that I had in my mind to start the show. I know you had a couple things as well. So number one, I'll try to keep it to 90 seconds. I promise I won't go any longer than that.
God, here we go.
Indiana, man. OKC in the finals. Halliburton not getting the Eastern Conference MVP, I thought was a joke. Like, he was even walking up there to accept the award. He's like, yeah. And then they're like, they call someone else's name. It was like SpongeBob and Squidward's getting the management job.
Yeah.
Kind of
I literally saw that meme shared.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I didn't see the meme shared, so that's actually hilarious.
Wow. Look at you. Look at you, Mr. Original over here.
I watch that movie all the time because my daughter likes it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, him not being the Eastern Conference Finals MVP is a joke to me. I mean, he hit that dagger from basically half court to seal the game. Like, how can you not give? I mean, Siakam's great. He had a great, but it was close. And I think if it's close, you got to give it to the guy who got you there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Off my perch.
The reality is, if he doesn't hit that shot and they don't win that game, I don't think they win this series. I honestly.
Not only that, he hits the shot with the choking, a few games before that in Madison Square Garden. Like,
well, that's the shot I'm talking about.
Oh, I'm not. I'm talking about the shot from the last game.
Oh, yeah.
Where he hit it from basically half court.
Yeah. And
sealed it. It was nothing but net. He hit multiple big shots. Anyway, I just thought that was gross, not giving him the Eastern Conference.
I was holding on to this hope. I guess when Reggie did the shot and the choke, and I guess the Pacers go on to lose in Game 7 in that series.
Yeah.
So
you're right.
I was hoping history was going to repeat itself, and that Halliburton had secretly cursed the Pacers by redoing the choke from the 90s. But yeah, I guess we'll see. Okay, here's the one thing I wanted to mention too about this is, if the finals go to Game 7, Game 7 is scheduled for June 22nd.
Oh, I see where you're going.
The first day of the summit. So this is my new prayer, because I really don't care about either of these teams. I guess I lean OKC. The idea of the Pacers winning the finals is a lot for me. The fact that they're even there is crazy, honestly.
Yeah. I would be willing to take a bet that it won't go to Game 7 and OKC will just smoke them. I don't know about a sweep, but 5 or 6 games.
Sweep, probably 5 games. I'm hoping it goes to 7 though, because if we get to watch Game 7 together at the summit, unfortunately, I think Game 6 is Thursday, so there's a big gap if it goes 6 versus 7. But
here's my other thing, right? Moving away from NBA, we can talk about it more once the finals commence, or get started, I should say. But I was thinking about this.
Steve says time's up. Steve says time's up.
I was thinking about this.
Being clocked.
Yeah, just stop clock. I was thinking about this morning. I'm at the gym, I'm listening to a podcast, and I was just kind of curious of your thoughts on this.
Yeah.
This might sound like a silly topic, but it is a point of interest to me as a content creator myself. I listen to the vast majority of podcasts on YouTube. There's a million places to listen to podcasts. I will almost always listen to it on YouTube, but I'll usually never watch the video. It's usually on in the background or when I'm working out in my headphones, something like that. But I'm never like sitting there watching the video.
Right.
And then I got to thinking, I wonder how many people do that. And the reason that came to mind for me is because my wife is nagging me basically constantly to get YouTube Premium. So we skip ads because she watches a lot of YouTube too. And I'm like, no, I don't know why. I have no idea why I won't do it.
You're the worst. You are absolutely the worst. I have YouTube Premium. Get Premium, bro.
I waste money on so many things. I listened to a podcast that I like a lot at the gym this morning, and it was an hour and 50 minutes, almost 2 hours, the entire podcast. I got hit with the same non-skippable ad. I lost count at 12 times. It was non-skippable, 12-second ad, give or take. And and by about the seventh time, I was like ready to just find the headquarters of the business and burn it down. Because I was like, oh, and it was so often. And I'd never felt like I wanted to get YouTube Premium more than in that moment this morning. And then I got thinking, if I was listening to this on Spotify or Apple, this probably wouldn't be happening, the audio only. And then I was like, why don't I listen to more podcasts on that medium? I don't quite know. Am I weird? Am I the only person that watches podcasts on YouTube and doesn't care about the video?
When JRE was on YouTube, I used to listen to his podcast on YouTube. That was really it, though. Almost all of the podcasts I listen to, I use Spotify. I use Spotify for my music, so it's more about convenience. Before I was really using Spotify, I used to listen on iTunes, which, by the way, guys, we're on all these platforms. If you're ever looking to listen, every single one you can hear us on. So feel free to search Seven Figures or Bust. You can find us on any of these audio platforms. It is weird, though, that you're listening. Like, the whole point of YouTube, in my mind, is if you'd want to watch the podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're going to get hit with way more ads, especially if you're not paying for it like me.
Yeah. This is interesting.
YouTube, one of the most important platforms in my life from many standpoints, right? I take in my content from YouTube. I'm a creator on YouTube. It's been huge for our business in multiple ways. But it's kind of fascinating. The more I think about it, I'm like, why am I like that? I need to sit down in the chair and psychoanalyze myself.
That your therapist.
Here's the thing.
What platforms do you watch?
If I really think about it, I think here's my delusion in a sense. I count on YouTube to keep its algorithm to keep feeding me things I want to watch. It's how I keep my I guess what's the word I'm looking for?
Your algo fresh.
Yeah, it's how I keep my algo fresh. It's how I keep my pipeline full of things that I'm going to be interested in. And I feel like if I watch the podcast on that platform, I'm contributing to that greater mission. Whereas if I take it onto another platform,
this is insane. I'll save you the money of this therapist visit. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, this is insane. We need to get you YouTube Premium and some medication immediately. Okay. I see a T-shirt that says "How I Keep My Algo Fresh." I mean, that's just a wild thing to say as well. So here we are, Monday morning.
Okay, take it away. I know you got some.
Okay, so I do have a couple things. Here's the main thing I wanted to talk about this morning is we have a camping trip, not this weekend, but next weekend coming up.
Okay. And
I'm at the point in life now where the idea of a camping trailer sounds nice, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm tossing around this idea. I'm looking at a trailer online, and you know Marcus Lemonis?
The prophet guy.
Yes. So my understanding is he is the owner or founder of Camping World.
Yep.
Camping World, right? And their whole shtick is they're like the biggest RV sales company in like the US. So, anyways, I end up on Camping World's website. I'm looking at trailers. I find one that I'm semi interested in. And what do? Well, I submit a request that says, I'm interested in this and I want more information.
Oh,
Right.
no.
I fill out a form.
Okay. All right.
And
interested where this goes.
Yeah. Well, what do you think happens next? Let me ask you before
I think you start getting phone calls and texts relentlessly at all hours of the day. That's
the exact opposite.
Whoa.
I have gotten 2 emails. No texts, no phone calls, no voicemails. I've gotten 2 emails in response to this.
Okay.
And it's kind of like this double-edged sword. On one hand, obviously I'm glad I'm not getting like nuked. I'm not even sure I'm really interested, right? On the other hand, from a sales point of view and from a lead generator's point of view, I'm like, this is classic, right? This is classic. I am an organic lead that came in through search. Pretty high intent, right? Like, I am searching out a trailer that could potentially fit my budget, potentially fit my family. I submit my information. And in the moment, if I had gotten contacted right away, right? If someone had called me 5 minutes from submitting that, maybe they get me to schedule an appointment to come in. Maybe I commit right there and I say, yeah, I'll come take a look. But they don't. And now here it is. This lead's almost a week old. And if you call me now, I might be like, I'm over it. I'm just going to camp in my tent. I don't really care anymore. Right. It's like, so I was really shocked by that, especially because, again, my thought ahead of time would have been like what you said. I would have thought the second I hit submit on this form, this is a major company. This is a sales company, right? I mean, this is crazy to me, if I'm being honest.
Do you think that's intentional on their part, or do you think it's sloppiness? Like, do you think they have a standpoint that they're like hammering that lead as an older type of strategy?
There's a lot that could potentially be going on behind the scenes with this. I lose you?
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Okay, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're lagging on me for a second here. Try unplugging your mic really fast.
Hang on. How about now?
Yeah, it's still your audio's lagging a little bit. There's a lot. So
how about now? Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, that's better. So there's a lot that could be going on behind the scenes with this. Because I also kind of went down this road in my head, and I'm thinking, like, maybe they're like independent contractors, right? Maybe these salespeople are like in charge of their own, right? Maybe it's not like a W-2 organization where, like a car dealership where, those guys are all, from my understanding, typically a car dealership is like their W-2 employees, they're being fed leads, et cetera, yada, yada. So I don't know the exact reason behind it, but what I can tell you is this is most likely, whether it's intentional or unintentional, is kind of irrelevant in my opinion. I think the vast majority of leads that get generated, even organic search leads like what I was, they just go uncontacted. Salespeople aren't reaching out to their leads is the bottom line. I just kind of laughed as I sat there and I saw this second email come in like last night. Hey, Glenn, we're one of the biggest RV sales companies in the US. If you're still looking, let us know. Like,
do you think there's no process in place with that company to make outbound calls to these leads? That's what I know you said that it's irrelevant, but to me, that's the most interesting part to me, because it makes me wonder, like, what us on the insurance marketing side of things, right? From multiple different perspectives. One thing that we harp on is that you have to be contacting your leads in multiple ways, right? Touch points.
Yeah.
Part of that, and probably the most important part of that, is outbound calls. So unless you're generating inbound transfer, just a different game, right? But I wonder, insurance has always been an old school type of industry, right? It seems to always be a little bit behind. Do you think that type of strategy is more of a normal trend for mainstream businesses? Maybe they save the salaries of salespeople and they're like, we're just going to market so well that the people that are going to be interested will just sign up or buy, and we'll build in a couple light automations. Do you think that could be the strategy, or do you think it's genuinely lazy salespeople there?
Well, here's part of the thing that's weird for me is I really liked The Prophet. I watched. I don't. There's probably been more episodes now. At one point, I had seen like all 3 seasons when it was
Me
a
too.
newer show,
Me too. I
and
would binge
I
it.
think yeah, I think Marcus Lemonis is the real deal. Like, there's only a few entrepreneurs that fit into this category of like they're legit. It's his money.
I
Like, he
I
understands business.
I like him a lot. He made a couple public statements that made me dislike him.
I'm sure. I'm
um,
sure.
but I'd watch his show if it came on. I haven't watched it in years though.
Yeah, I haven't watched it anytime, right? But his whole thing is PPP. It's the product, the people, and the process, right? That's his whole shtick. So I have a hard time believing that unless, but here's the thing: is I don't know. He might have been completely removed from that. He may have sold out all of his equity, got super wealthy, and he's not really a part of the day to day anymore. He might have been got out of the game for a long time, but that was part of my thought process with this whole situation. Is because I know Marcus Lemonis and I know he like helped found and really grow this company. I'm surprised there's not a bigger sales push happening behind the scenes. And I don't disagree with you though. Like, the new trend line, and again, to stick on this whole car sales idea topic that we're on, Carvana, right? These new car
Mm.
startups where they're trying to remove the salespeople from the process, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I understand what you're saying when you're like, there is kind of this trend line where people want to give, there's companies that want to give options to those people that don't want to work with salespeople. At the end of the day, I would have to think the data still supports having a strong sales organization is going to increase your sales 100 times something super passive.
I would agree. I would agree. It's just interesting to me because I feel like in my everyday life, right, if I go outside of insurance and I'm just thinking about things that I will use, I will be a customer of in my everyday life, I would say it's ultimately fairly rare that I do encounter a situation where there's a company that has a strong sales organization and sales culture and that type of follow-up sales mentality. I think it's incredibly rare, actually. I think
Yeah.
when you do encounter it, it's almost like, wow, like never don't see that much anymore type of thing. Probably the if I think about my own personal life, the number one thing I think about is buying my cars in the last year. But
Yeah.
other than that, I don't know if I can think of anything else that I've been a customer of that had any type of sales feel to it, I guess, where I could point to like, oh, they have a salesperson that you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. I
it
would
just
I would
makes me
say
wonder.
probably the last time I had like a strong sales would be like when I was shopping for my mortgage. The last time I got a mortgage a few years back, there was definitely some sales organizations I ran into where it was kind of that, like you mentioned, where I submitted my information and I'm getting hammered.
Right.
My info probably got resold 20 times, and I'm getting hammered by not only the organization I signed up for, but then also, 20 of their affiliates. So, um, but yeah, now that you think about it, especially when I think about like my local businesses around me, there's no, I call the plumber up, I call XYZ business up. There's very little sales going on, which is
Hmm.
probably a huge missed opportunity if I think about it. It makes me want to go like help these companies, be like, hey, if you just added a little bit of sales in here, like, some automations, get something going here, like you guys could probably 10x your business, you know?
Yeah. Very interesting. It might be something
Yeah,
that we tackle as an entire episode at one point,
could be.
because it does make me wonder. And you think with a company as big as Camping World, you got to think everything they do is probably for a reason, right? They probably have data up the butt
I would think
um,
so, right?
that kind of creates and determines everything they do from a standard operating procedure position, right? So that's why that's what comes into my mind right away. It's like, are they just poorly ran and their salespeople suck and they're just twiddling their thumbs, or do they feel like they're better off with this approach? Again, we'll never know. We're just speculating. We've been accused of that on this platform before, but but it is interesting to me. I want to make sure we have as much time as possible for the main topic.
Yes.
There's a
Yes.
lot we didn't have time to get into last week. If you haven't already listened, watched, whatever type of way you absorb this show, the first part of this episode, which we did last week, if I started over today, I want to say it was episode 111. I could be wrong. Not looking at it in front of me.
No, I think you're right.
Go back and listen to that as well, because it will add a lot of context to the continuation of this conversation today. But before we do that, I want to make sure that we talk about this episode's sponsor for 113. Glenn, who's the sponsor?
Yes, guys, today's episode of the Seven Figures or Bust podcast is brought to you by the Seven Figure CRM, which fits in very nicely with what we were just talking about. If you do not have a CRM system, or if you have a CRM system that you are not really utilizing, or maybe you have a CRM system that's old, it's 10, 20 years old, and it just doesn't have the features that the latest and greatest CRMs have, you need to stop what you're doing right now, because you are leaving sales on the table. You are also limiting your lead nurturing ability by not having automations that can reach out to your leads. Speed to lead, in my opinion, is everything. On top of staying organized and being able to understand what your ROI looks like when you do spend marketing dollars. So head over to sevenfigurecrm.com. We are in the process this week of launching hundreds of automations that will be included at no additional cost, as well as additional content, templated landing pages, templated permission to contact forms, scope of appointment templated forms that you can utilize. You can add your branding to. This is something that we're utilizing inside ESI, our agency, and something that we've white labeled for you guys. So you can come in, slap your brand, slap your name, slap your agent's name on this content, and hit the ground running even faster. So you don't have to spend the years that we've now spent building out this type of CRM system. So again, head over to sevenfigurecrm.com. Do not wait. Check it out. 14-day free trial. So you don't even have to pay a penny to check it out. So do not wait. We'll drop the link in the comments below.
Awesome. Wanted to mention one more thing. So we've been working on this like additional, what we're calling internally 1.0 launch. That essentially is bringing a ton of additional content, like Glenn mentioned, to the table with Seven Figure CRM, automations, landing pages, scope of appointments, things like that. Glenn, do we have an estimated day this week that this will go out? I wasn't sure if it was today or the next
starting. So it's starting today. So we're going. The process could take several days depending on kind of the speed of this. So ideally, we'd like to see this completely launched by the end of this week. So if you are an existing user already within the Seven Figure CRM system, if you're a downline agent, you're a premier agent at ESI, you've already got access to this system, you will see this content show up in your system, again, at no additional cost. So we're hoping by the end of this week to have that rolled out to everybody, including new users, and that rollout will start today.
Got it. And Glenn and I have both been heavily involved in this additional 1.0 push for the last several months now. And we feel like one thing that sets it apart from a lot of systems, not to say ours is the only one that's this way, but there are also a lot of systems that pride themselves on not being an agency. One thing that we have an advantage over is we know things they don't. As an agency, as having a lot of
Yeah.
experience, as written a lot of business, had a lot of personal experience. So it is created and really wound together from a perspective of an agent for an agent, right? So that's why I feel like it's going to really be a great value for a lot of you. You don't have to build your own automation from scratch. Like, it's in there. No matter how your lead is generated in a multitude of different ways, there's triggers for it already put together. These automations are one-stop shops in a lot of ways for no matter how you're getting your business, right? T65 business, Medicare supplement business, final expense business, general Medicare business. And it could be a Lead Heroes lead. Of course, there's a method for that. Direct mail, generating on Facebook. No matter what trigger you're using, there's going to be something built in. So this is kind of a nuclear weapon in a lot of ways. I think these automations are very strong. So yeah, I'm excited about it, and excited to hear feedback from people that start using them. So anyway, just wanted to add my little 2 cents on 7-figure CRM. Okay.
To kind of transition too, again, as a new agent, if you are brand new and you're listening to this, when I was a brand new agent 12 years ago now, 13 years ago, there were CRM systems out there, but I just didn't use them. And
Right.
that's a huge, huge regret that I have as an agent.
They also weren't nearly as advanced and
No,
capable as they are today.
absolutely correct. Yeah.
They were
But
pretty limited, right? Probably a lot more clunky. So if I had to start over today, like let's say I had something like 7-figure CRM at my disposal,
oof,
I've talked on this
insane.
show about the level of production I was able to do personally as an agent. Many years of, 150, 200, 250 apps during AEP. I had a year where I broke 500 new apps in a year as an agent personally producing. I can only think of the damage I could have done in a positive damage to my competitors if I had these.
First you call it a nuclear weapon. Now you're saying you're going to cause damage with it. Christian is violent this Monday morning, you guys. I apologize for my co-host here. He's really wanting to attack. He had his Wheaties this morning.
Feeling a little saucy this morning. I don't know. I don't know if that's
saucy.
the word for this.
A little good workout this morning, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, one of those workouts where you feel nauseous by the end.
You're not barfing at the end of this workout. It's not even a workout.
Are you really trying? So anyway, I thought a lot about this since our last episode, and I thought there were some things that I'm like, oh, I wish I talked about that more. I wish I talked about that more. One thing we started talking about that people did have a lot of questions that we kind of ran out of time talking about was, you very correctly brought up that something that agents should be thinking about is if you can find an opportunity, I wouldn't bank on being able to find this. You might not be able to. There just might not be the opportunity that aligns. But if you can find it as a new agent, finding an agent that might be older, doesn't have an heir, doesn't have a succession plan, that you can come in and kind of be their succession plan in a way and take over their business. I wanted to talk a lot more in the weeds on that. But in addition to that, like how you mix and match, right? Like looking for that person, but also building your own book, because you don't want to bank on that. Because if you can't find that person, you're going to starve to death if you're not writing business. And how much of your time should be allocated? How do you find that person? What do the details of that look like, right? So I think that's such an underrated thought process to just build into the plan for a new agent. And if I started over today knowing what I know, that would be very high on my list of things I'd try to accomplish, because it is a power move in a sense. So when I talk about that, right? First off, 3 questions for you. How do you find that person? How do you structure that deal? And number 3, how much of your time do you allocate versus prospecting?
how much time do you allocate trying to find this person?
Yes. How do you mix that in?
Are you trying to find someone that's local to you, or are you open to working with someone that's not local to you in this scenario?
Let's say local. Let's keep it simple. I think for most
Yeah.
agents, local would be the easiest and most
Yeah.
realistic, right?
Yeah. The cleanest for sure. Um, so, again, we're still in the middle of this tsunami of baby boomers retiring. The
Mm-hmm.
average insurance agent's 55 years old. Over the next 10 years, we're going to be seeing a ton of insurance agents exiting the business because they're going to retire. Christian and I personally just took a book off of someone's hands, and they're basically transitioning into retirement themselves. So we have personally experienced this exact scenario very recently. I think
This episode of the Seven Figures or Bust podcast is brought to you by my mini course, How to Find and Buy Books of Businesses. Guys, in 2024, Glenn and I, in our combined company, purchased and acquired through acquisition 900 clients. And over the years, we've purchased thousands of clients to grow our agency internally. And we've learned a thing or two over the years, right? There's certain things you need to look out for. You need to know how to value a book of business. You need to know how to transfer everything, what the expectations are in terms of the timeline. And you need to know how to put a deal together and structure it to protect yourself while still at the same time doing good business with people. Guys, this mini course is around 10 videos long. It's a quick and easy thing to get through. And it's a great way for you to grow your book of business in 2025. Whether you're finding an agent that is maybe been in the business for decades and they want to retire, and then maybe they don't have any kids to take over their business. Maybe you're looking at a situation with an agent that just hasn't been able to make it in the business and they're just looking to go off and try other things. Buying books of businesses can be a great way to quickly and rapidly grow your business fast. And we've unveiled all of the little tools and tricks that you need to know in this training. It's a one-time purchase for only $197. For that price, we're practically giving it away. Make sure to check it out now. Now back to the show.
So this is similar to the conversation we had about referral partners, where you should absolutely allocate time for this, but this isn't something that's going to generate revenue right away for you as an agent, as a business owner. So you can't go all in on this. You can't spend your entire week trying to find this person.
Right.
Not to mention, this is kind of a diamond in the rough you're looking for. I mean, this is depending on your local area, because that's what I'm thinking about. My local area, there's very few agencies around me. So, if you're in a major metro area, you probably have a higher probability of finding this person that you're looking for. I don't know. I guess what you'd have to really do is probably, I mean, and this, again, it does kind of connect to this referral business part, because we talked about how sometimes the best referral partners are actually other Medicare agents, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so maybe you could even approach it like that, right? Maybe you're getting a list of Medicare agents and agencies in your local area, and you're just kind of networking with them, right? You don't come in maybe necessarily with, hey, who's taking over your business when you die or when you retire, right? Like, maybe you don't come in at that angle. Maybe you come in and just be like, hey, I'm a newer agent. If I have someone that I can't help, can I refer them to you? Would that be okay? I just want to network with you and blah, blah, blah. And then maybe as you learn more information, once you connect with this other agent or other agency owner, maybe then you can extract kind of that, who's taking over your book. I don't feel like that's like a first conversation type of thing, in my opinion.
Can I share some thoughts I had?
Yeah,
Because I was
please
thinking
do.
about that. I was thinking about this morning as I was on the verge of vomit, pumping iron. Just kidding. All I could think about was succession planning.
Good Lord.
Each
Good
rep
Lord.
got me closer to the succession. Who's your heir? Okay, I'm sorry, audience. But no, I hope I'm going to share some value with you. Okay, so what if you kept it simple and you told yourself 80%, you do the 80-20 rule. 80% of your time spent on prospecting, 20% of your time looking for this diamond in the rough. Because if you find it, it automatically puts you so much farther ahead. What if the easiest way to find this person is by looking for someone to put your contracts under that fits that criteria? Because if you're in their downline, you work directly together, right? That would probably be the position I would be looking for. Probably most likely a local agency, maybe a guy that's been doing this 20, 30 years, older guy, doesn't have any kids or any kids that are interested in the business. How do you find these people? I'll get to that in a second, but somebody that has 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 clients, something like that. Maybe they're a GA. So on the Medicare Advantage side, so they have 2 or 3 other downline agents, but you position it like, hey, I would like to come in, work hard, be your best agent, grow into becoming your best agent. And, I'd like to earn your trust and potentially come in and be worthy of being your heir potentially, right? That's a tough first conversation to have. If someone came in to me and said something like that, no, first off, I don't have 2 or 3 agents. We have 600. So I would laugh in someone's face and tell them to fuck themselves if someone came in and that was their first conversation with me.
Right.
So, but maybe like have that in mind, right? There's no guarantee you're going to find somebody that's going to agree to do that right off the bat, but maybe you strategically pick who your upline is going to be and somebody that potentially could.
That's interesting.
Develop that relationship. And then if it turns out they're not going to develop that relationship after you've been doing it a few years, you learn what you can from them. Maybe it makes sense to break off, but like that's probably the most realistic way, because if you think about people that are heirs, not always, but a lot of the time it comes from somebody that that you have a relationship with.
Yeah. The tough part here is if you come into an agency where there's already like 2 or 3 other agents, you would think someone's potentially already been earmarked for this. So now you're going to have to really, get violent, like you're saying, right? I mean, really compete. You're competing for daddy's love at this point, right? I mean, you want to be the favorite child. Mm-hmm. So the scenario that I'm thinking in my head was really almost like a solo producer. But I love the idea of contracting under them, because now you're aligning their interests and they can work with you and you can service the book, all of those things. It does really align you with this person if you're contracted underneath them. By the way, did you say 80% of your time should be spent looking for this?
No, other way around.
Okay. 80, I was like, you're insane. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way you said 80% of your time.
80% of your time should be spent prospecting, and maybe 20% of your time should be spent looking for this person. But here's the thing. If you put your contracts under them, you probably are starting with them from the jump, from the get-go.
Right.
I think if you found the right person and you did put their contracts with them, that probably has much more upside for you if that is your end goal than putting your contract under some massive FMO with 10,000 agents where you're never, ever, ever going to be in the running for that. Right. So, they're going to sell to private equity or something like that.
So let's take this a step further. So you're interviewing for working at this agency. The idea would be kind of during the interview process before you contract would be to try to get a feeling maybe if there's a possibility that this could happen. And then if you feel like there is a possibility, you take a chance there. And then if it doesn't look like it's really going to happen in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, then maybe you segue out and you go somewhere else. That's kind of what you're thinking.
Yeah, like you gain experience. Worst case scenario, right? If it doesn't look like it's going to happen, you gain experience. You start writing some clients. I suppose you could take a position at an agency as an LOA, but You don't have to, right? It could be a downline
Right.
independent agent type of thing. I think that is a much more realistic scenario than finding somebody that's a stranger that is willing to let you be their heir, because those guys are probably way more likely to sell their book to us.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Opposed to somebody that just got their license. You know what I'm saying? So, like,
Yeah.
I think to find somebody and for them to develop that trust in you, I feel like it's going to take time. I think it's very, very unlikely that you're just going to talk to them a few times and they're going to be like, yep, come on in, run my business I built for 30 years. You've never written a policy, but come on in, little
Right.
Billy.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you can strategically pull that out, I would be thinking about these things. I would be having these conversations internally in my head about how can I strategically position myself in this way, in a way that I
Right.
never would have thought of starting off. Um, so maybe it involves you writing 1, 2, 3, 400 clients first under this person's downline, and then you grow that relationship. And you know, if someone is older and they've been doing this long time, and they don't have an heir, they typically are going to want to do something to get out.
Isn't this kind of the big pull on some of the bigger companies on the PNC side of the industry? Isn't this kind of what they do? You come in, you're given old clients, from someone else's book. You're taking over an area. They're trying to kind of jumpstart your career, right? I mean, isn't that kind of the same mentality that like a State Farm or a farmer's agent a lot of times they get? Am I wrong?
Maybe. I'm so unfamiliar with that world, so I can't really be. I'm the wrong person to ask, I think.
Joe Camper, comment right
Yeah.
now, please, Joe. I mean,
Yes.
that's my understanding though, especially with like a company like State Farm, or Farmers. It's like you don't own the book. When you're done or you retire, another agent's going to come in and take over to service your clients.
Right.
So the point of that though is to show that like if it's working on that side of the industry, surely there could be a similar situation that could develop here. I Here's where I struggle with this whole situation is as a business owner now, and the way I operate today is like a situation like that, I would want to get something in writing. I would want something in writing that says like in 5 years or less, I'm taking over the agency. The problem is, like you said though, is as a brand new agent coming into an unless they're desperate, unless you've got
Or
someone that's
or stupid.
desperate
Or
or
stupid.
stupid or stupid.
If you can find someone stupid, go all in. Cannonball, baby.
Well,
No, I
well, yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, I only say that portion of it, playing a little bit more of a long-term game, or maybe even positioning yourself in a way to where this could be possible without a guarantee, because I think the chance of you finding somebody that's going to agree to that, put something in writing, they don't really know you that well, is so low. I mean, it's
It's
almost got to be 0%.
0. Yeah, yeah.
So I just don't look at it as realistic. So when I think about the scenario of trying to find somebody, unless they were already like an established family friend, a beloved person, a beloved relationship that you've known for a long time, and they know you, that type of very rare situation is just that, very, very rare. Um, and so that's why I think about that, right? Like, I don't know if there's going to be a very likely probability of putting yourself in a situation, but maybe it would be fair to express your desires. Like, be like, someday I'd love to, prove to you that I'd be worthy of being an heir for you, since I know you don't have a,
It
re-
sounds
you
it sounds almost like a royalty, like a
know,
king situation. I would love to take over the throne, but again, we've experienced this firsthand. I honestly think there's probably a lot more desperate people out there than what you guys realize. I think there's probably a lot of agents who are getting older who genuinely need help. They can't service their book anymore. Maybe they're sick. maybe they have family they need to take care of, whatever the situation is. You'd probably be surprised. There might be some, but I think the more realistic situation is kind of like what you said. Um, Having a conversation where it's like, are you open to this? And if they're open to it, you take a flyer on it, you
Yeah,
get
like
contracted with them.
if I proved myself to you over time, is this something that could ever happen? Right? And
Yeah.
because if I'm them, there's no way I'm agreeing to that if you've never sold a
Yeah.
policy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and the other thing is, right, like, take us out of it, right? Like, I could say a lot of these guys could just very easily turn around and sell their book to someone like us. Let's put it that way. There's probably a us in most markets that could come in and eat up a book and pay them pretty, you know what I mean? Pay them pretty
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Opposed to little Billy come in that doesn't have two nickels to rub together, right? So, I almost feel like it has to be a long-term succession plan. And yeah, I don't know. Every way I think about it, I'm just like, I feel like I hesitate in advising a new agent to go down that direction because they might talk to 1,000 agency owners and strike out 1,000 times. It's just going to be that much of a turnover, of a
Right.
rejection rate. It's just, I think if you can find that person and it is a unicorn type situation, then great, go for it. I just don't feel like it's going to be, it might be one person that ever works for in history. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
sounds so far-fetched to me that anybody that's been doing this for 25, 30 years would ever do anything like that.
So kind of transit, because I think we talked about that scenario a lot. So I want to
Yeah, yeah.
transition to talk about another piece of this that as a newer agent, I think I missed on. So when I came into the industry, I was already aware of the organizations. I had spent a few months researching. I'd read a bunch of stories, the MLM horror stories. I was already aware of that, right? I was already aware. I'd also already been in an MLM myself before at this point. So when I came into the industry, I was a life insurance agent. I had my life health license. I'm a life agent focused. I was hyper fixated on getting leads and closing leads. The idea of trying to sell to friends or family or brand myself locally wasn't even really top of mind because I looked at it as like, you know, you're a sucker if you're selling to your family. You're a sucker if you're selling to your friends. You're probably with an organization, one of these life insurance MLM organizations that are hustling you. Like you should get leads from people who are interested and then try to sell to them. And, if I could go back, and if I were to start over again, I would absolutely from day one be telling every single person I know what I do. It doesn't have to be so that's the thing is like my mindset at the time back then was that like, oh, hi neighbor, yeah, I sell life insurance. Do you have a policy? Or if you don't, we should talk like that. It needs to be like it doesn't need to be like a sales conversation. It can just be, hey, oh, what do I do? Yeah, I'm actually a licensed agent. I focus on life insurance. That's my specialty. It can be that simple. You just plant the seed, right? Because if you're
Mm-hmm.
just planting the seed with your friends, your neighbors, your family, people in your community, all of a sudden you're going to naturally start to. I've seen it happen right now at this point in time. I've seen it happen. So that was a big miss for me personally as an agent. Is I just didn't really believe in grassroots marketing when I was early on. I was so focused on getting leads and just selling leads.
Yeah, yeah. And I know in the first episode, if I remember right, I think you said that you would probably start with Medicare opposed to the direction you took, right? If you started over. And I feel like with Medicare, that is even more impactful than probably it would be even for life.
Yeah.
Um, because Medicare is just this thing that they have to get right. So many people have it set up wrong.
Yep.
Um, there's a lot of bad information out there and bad advice.
Yep.
And if you can become known in social circles as the person that can do a good job, can make it easy, can make them feel unpressured, can make them feel like they understand it well enough to make a decision, people will a lot of times flock to you. I think for me, one thing I did correct was I worked my ass off. But I also did the referral partner marketing pretty well, I think, in the beginning.
Yeah, I think you did too.
One thing I didn't do well, it took me many years to figure out, was the overall branding element of it, right? Like, because the marketing, so and so, quote unquote, that I would do in the early years was cold calling, not scalable, not duplicatable, old leads, things like that. But I should have invested some of my money, and I wasted a lot of money on a lot of stupid things, like moving to Florida. Like, I remember I spent pretty much my entire savings at that time moving to Florida, then moving back. And
The
I think
20s.
I think about this, and I'm
20s.
like, man, if I had invested that into some like really good marketing campaigns, that would have anything, right?
Yeah.
Like, and you know, I could say, oh, the experience, blah 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 blah. Oh, sure, okay, whatever, the experience. But yeah, I mean, so I wish earlier on I emphasized branding myself earlier, because it did take me a while to do that, right? Like the logo, the company, the billboards, the mailers, the podcasting, the YouTubes, the website, all of that stuff that I kind of just spun up on my own over time. It just took me too long to do it. And all of those things really helped grow my business. Just emphasizing branding me and then later branding the company. It took me 4 years before I really started doing that in a bigger way. And business came easier. I wasn't having to fight and claw as much for a new client.
I mean, that's a really great point. Like the agency that I was working for when I came into the industry, they had a website. It was a decent website, and that's what, like, I had my card I showed you guys the other day. I think it's still, it's right here. But like the website listed on this card is the Assura website. I didn't have my own website. And if I could go back in time and I were to do this again, I don't have to have their brand. This could have been me. This could have been my brand. But I used my agency's brand. And the thing is like all the marketing was generic. It wasn't like the marketing was their brand.
Right.
It was all generic marketing, just like the mailers you guys see. Like, it's all super generic. So I could have easily had my own logo, my own website, all of that. And I was piggybacking on my agency because I just didn't really think I needed it.
And I want to preface what you're saying by saying you were an independent. So it made all the sense in the world for you to create your own brand. I think if you came in as an LOA, then yeah, that's totally different. But
right.
But being as an independent, like we have independent agents that work with us all the time that will reach out and being like, can I sell under your brand? Can I get business cards with your guys' logo? I'm like, first off, no. Second off, why would you want to?
Why would you? Yeah.
Why would you want
to? Yeah.
Why do you want to? I don't understand that, right? Because the whole point of being independent is growing your own business, your own brand.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think that's a great point. And yeah, I think I ended up eventually doing a lot of the things correct, but I think it just took me too long to start doing them.
It kind of feels like we did it all backwards when you really think about it, right? because now I would look at it like I need to establish all of these things. Like I need the CRM, I need the website, I need the brand, I need the grassroots marketing. And all of this, it was kind of like after the fact. I was so hyper focused on the sales part of it. I wanted to be really good on the phone. I wanted to be really good at setting appointments. I wanted to be really good at converting appointments into the presentation and applications. I wish I had kind of taken a step back and looked at the bigger picture. I think that was a big part of what I was missing. And so if I started over today, I would start like I'd kind of pull back a little bit and be like, what does this really look like 10 years from now? I wasn't thinking about 10 years from when I got you think I was thinking about a decade down the road when I got I was not thinking about a decade.
Right.
I wish I had. I wish I had, for sure.
Here's a question for you though. Because the whole premise of this is if I started over today, knowing what I know, obviously you would know everything that you know, right? So you would know to set all those things up. But like, let's say taking you back to when you started, you didn't know what you didn't know. How many agents have we seen that obsess about those things that it drives us nuts and they won't try to sell anything? Right? Like,
that's
the other side of the coin of that,
yeah.
right? Like, if you had not prioritized sales, would you have made it?
Analysis paralysis, right?
You might have not made it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes you just have to, even if it's not perfect or it's sloppy or whatever the case might be.
Right.
I feel like sometimes as a new agent, you just have to get out there and
totally
bust your cherry.
It's true though. Like if I had obsessively crafted a 10-year business plan, and then I get lost on, because you're so right in the sense of like, how many agents do we talk to or work with or try to contract, etc., where they are not focused on the sales at all and they want a really pretty business card. Right?
Yeah. 6 months in, that's all done.
Look at my business card. Yeah.
They have a nice fancy little business card, looks better than mine. I don't even carry my business cards anymore.
I don't even think about my business card.
Yeah, and then the next thing they do that takes another 3 months is they spin up a Facebook business page with the logo on it.
Yeah,
they're like, congratulations, you have made $0 and 0 cents.
they're posting memes on their Facebook page, like if this is if you used to watch Friends when it was live on TV, it's probably time to contact me about your life insurance. Like, have you seen those?
Yeah.
I die inside when I see those posts, because I'm like, if you think this is marketing, which yes, technically it is. Technically, you might get someone to reach out, but it's so low on like the conversion poll. I know it has to be, like.
Absolutely. It absolutely is. We're getting close to the top of the hour. I want to make sure that we have time for final thoughts. I'll kick off with mine. I think.
Please do.
To summarize, if I started over again today, knowing what I know, I would definitely be utilizing technology better. I'd be trying to brand better. I'd be doing all the things that we're doing today. I'd try to do a lot of them from the get-go. But at the same time, I would still prioritize putting myself out there and trying to write new business, right? Like, nothing matters unless you're bringing in new business. And you don't have to be perfect to start. And I would still take that approach. But I would also still allocate some of my time to trying to find that person that maybe I could take over their book. I think if you can find that's such a home run, right? Like, and so but here's the thing. Some of you are going to listen to this podcast and think that's all I need to be doing. And that's not what we're saying. That's not what I'm saying. It should be a focus, but I don't think it should be the majority of your focus, certainly not your only focus. But I wasn't even thinking that way when I first came in. I might be today. It might be like strategically, something that I would be considering. So yeah, that's my final thoughts on if I had to start over today. We talked about a lot of different things, but yeah, I just think smarter, wiser, tackling things from the right perspective.
I feel like this could go part 3, if I'm being honest. I feel like there's more. I feel like there's even more to be said to this, to be honest.
I do too.
Because like, so my final thoughts, you guys, like, I think something that we keep coming back to is like the power. This is something I would have never really thought much of, I think, when I was a new agent at the time. So if I were to start over today, or if you're a new agent listening or watching this right now, the power of having 1 to 2 hours of your week dedicated to a long-term strategy, whether that's business referral partners, or you're trying to find an agent to take over their book, or maybe it's to learn a new skill that you're not good at. I think there's so much power in that. I think the short-term mindset when you look at something like that is you might think that's a distraction, or I should be selling, I shouldn't be doing this. Long-term, though, if you take an hour a week over the course of 5 years and you're trying to find business referral partners, eventually you're going to, see huge dividends on that just from the sheer volume of time over the years that you spent doing it. Grassroots marketing works that way. All of these things that we've discussed, I think sometimes you can just take a little bit of your time and you could easily schedule it out on your calendar. I think the technology piece is a huge part of this too, especially in 2025. There's so much technology that can help leverage your time and leverage your business that I think you just would be crazy not to really utilize. And a lot of it's really low cost too. It's not like you have to, pay an arm and a leg to get access to this technology. So those are my final thoughts on If I Started Over Today, Part 2. If you would like a Part 3 to this episode, comment below, guys. We've really enjoyed talking about this. This has been an interesting topic. So yeah, comment below.
Unprecedented it would be a part 3. So let us know.
Unprecedented.
Let us know if you guys would like to see that. It'd be making podcast history. And we'd love to kind of to hear your feedback. Appreciate you guys watching all the way to the end, no matter how you are watching, whether it be live or on a recorded platform or a medium. Do us a favor. If you're watching on the Facebook group, whether it be live or on the recording, make sure to comment to be entered into Freebie Friday. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. It's a great place to get full-length recordings of the video podcast forever, for life. Make sure to subscribe if you're listening on a platform like Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You guys know the drill. And until next time, appreciate you guys watching all the way to the end, and we'll see you on the next one. Here's to your massive success.
Happy selling.